This tutorial is for section X6, Solve Two-Step Inequalities. This is for 8th grade. For 7th grade, this looks more like your T6 section. So, before we've been asked to solve one-step inequalities, now we're being asked to solve two-step inequalities. So, all the same rules apply, we just may have to do it in a couple different steps to get to our final answer. So, let's dive right in. Number 1. 5w plus 7 is less than or equal to negative 3. The first and easiest thing I see to work with is this plus 7. If I could get rid of him on this side, I'd be closer to having w by itself on the left. So that's an easy first step. So I'll subtract 7 from both sides. That leaves me with 5w on the left. I bring down my sign, less than or equal to, and then negative 3 minus 7 is a negative 10. So now I have 5w is less than or equal to negative 10. So in previous sections we would have been done, that was just one step, but these are two-step inequalities. So there's another step now to get to our final answer, and you should be able to see that step pretty easily. 5 is being multiplied by w, so to undo multiplication we're going to use division. So we're going to divide by 5 to get w by itself. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. So w is less than or equal to negative 2. So again, this shouldn't feel any harder. It should just feel maybe a little bit longer, a little bit more time consuming, because it's one step here where we subtracted the 7, and then a second step here where we divided by 5. So let's look at another example. Number 2, 2r minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 4. Just like here, the first thing I see is this minus 8. I can get rid of that easily by adding 8 to both sides. My next line then would read 2r is less than or equal to, and then negative 4 plus 8 is a positive 4. Now it's already looking less complicated. It's looking cleaner than it did in the first line, but it's still not written as r equals something or r is less than or equal to something. So we have one more step. This is being multiplied 2 by r, and so we'll divide by 2 to get r by itself. We'll do the same thing to both sides. So that leaves us with r is less than or equal to 2. Number 3. 5 is greater than or equal to 6 minus q. Now this time we have our variable, which just means letter. We have our variable on the right, but we can still work with that. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. That gets us a lot closer to q being by itself, right? So subtract 6, 5 minus 6 is a negative 1. So negative 1 is greater than or equal to negative q. Now, this is where it might get a little sticky for you, so I want you to definitely pay attention. They never ask us to solve for a negative variable, so they'll want to know what a positive q is, right? So to do this, you would think, oh, well, I'll just take the negative off both. But what you're actually doing to get from here to here, to get from a negative q to a positive q, is mathematically speaking, you're multiplying by a negative 1. So when you do that, you have to also flip this sign here in the middle. So if you're going to flip all of these signs, the left and the right, you also have to flip the direction that inequality is facing here, right? So this feels like an extra step, but I just wanted to explain it to you like this. So in order to make this a positive, we multiplied by a negative 1 on both sides, and we flip the sign. Now, I was telling you in the last video, the last lesson, to read it backwards. That's how I think of it. So if I read it right to left instead of left to right, I would read it as q is greater than or equal to 1. So this isn't technically a third step, because you could get your answer from here just by reading it backwards. But if you want to rewrite it in the form that we've been using with the variable on the left, you would read it backwards and then copy that down. So q is greater than or equal to 1, because we read it from this side to that side. Number 4. 9v minus 1 is greater than or equal to negative 10. We're going to add 1 to both sides. leaving us with 9v is greater than or equal to negative 9. We're going to divide by 9 on both sides to get v by itself, leaving us with v is greater than or equal to negative 1. Now, you will see we were working with some negatives here, but we didn't have to multiply or divide by any negatives. We only divided by that positive 9, so we're not flip-flopping that sign there. Number 5. 2c minus 5 is less than negative 9. We're going to add 5 to both sides, leaving us with 2c is less than negative 4. Divide both sides by negative 2 to leave c by itself. So negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. So c is less than negative 2. Number 6. 4 minus p is greater than or equal to negative 6. The easiest first step here is to subtract 4 from both sides, leaving us with negative p is greater than or equal to negative 10. And I didn't write out all the steps like I did here for number 3, but we're doing the same thing. We're going to multiply by a negative, which means that our negative p becomes a positive p, our greater than or equal to becomes a less than or equal to, and our negative 10 becomes a positive 10. So if you're flipping this sign, you've got to flip all the other signs, including that inequality. Number 7. 9 is greater than 5 minus f. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, leaving me with 4 is greater than negative f. And just like in number 3, I need to flip the sign here to get a positive f, and then I need to read it backwards to get my final answer. So I multiplied by a negative 1 to get to this step, so that changed my negative into a positive. It changed my greater than into a less than, and this positive into a negative. Then I'll read it backwards to get my answer written with the variable on the left. So f is greater than negative 4 becomes my answer. Number 8. Z divided by 2 minus 5 is greater than or equal to 4. Here we're going to add 5 to both sides, leaving us with z divided by 2 is greater than or equal to 9. To get rid of this 2 in the denominator, which is z is being divided by that, we're going to multiply by that. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So that cancels out on the left, leaving us with only z, and then 9 times 2 here is 18. Number 9. 5 is less than 1 minus n. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides, leaving us with 4 is less than or equal to negative n. We need to flip all the signs to get a positive n, and then read it backwards to get our variable on the left. So n is less than or equal to negative 4. Number 10. 2f minus 6 is greater than or equal to 4. I'll first subtract 6 from both sides, then divide by 2 on both sides, leaving me with f by itself on the left, and then 10 divided by 2, so 5 by itself on the right. And that's it.